book of Genesis, and why did God create man? In Hebrew, it is called Bereshit, which is the first Hebrew word from the book itself, and means in the beginning. As for calling it Genesis, it is translated from the Septuagint, and means the origin or the beginning of things. It is believed that Moses the prophet wrote it in Midian while he was tending the sheep of his father-in-law Jethro. It is more likely that he wrote it after receiving the revelation of the law. He learned to write from the Egyptians, whose wisdom he learned. Even though the one who taught the disciples languages on the day of Pentecost was able to teach Moses how to write. The topic of creation preoccupied the ancient world with all its religions, philosophies, and popular literature, and it carried a mixture of myths and legends. So Moses was committed to recording in a kind of simplicity that even a common man could understand. In his explanation of creation, it is worth noting that he did not present a doxology of creation. Rather, he told us about creation as a way to understand God's work of salvation. Divine revelation did not aim to present theologies and philosophies specific to creation, but rather it wanted to introduce us to the Creator who is concerned with renewing creation after its corruption. Saint Didymus the Blind believes, in his interpretation of the book of Genesis, that the purpose of divine inspiration in talking about creation is to correct the wrong ideas that leaked into Israel on this matter from Egyptian pagan worship. This book highlighted an important aspect that affects our relationship with God. In the eyes of God, man is not just a creation among millions of earthly and heavenly creatures, but he is a unique being who bears the earthly characteristic in the body and the heavenly in the spirit. He has his own appreciation in the eyes of God. God's gift of free will distinguishes him from all other earthly creatures. The earth with all its power and the planets with all their greatness moves according to natural laws set for it. And animals act according to a natural instinct. As for man, he is a free being who has the right to choose the path and act as he decides. For this reason, God created man as master of the earth and ruler over everything on it and under it. In the seas and in the air, even over space, he gave him his image and likeness, and appointed him as his ambassador. God's view of us and his pride in us emerged from his longing to attribute himself to us when we qualify for that. So he calls himself the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He desires to be a special God for each of his children. This book highlighted God's transcendent fatherhood for man. He did not create him as a prisoner, as some contemporary philosophies imagined him to be, nor did he place him in humiliation to control him however he wanted. Rather, he created him as a beloved son for him, for whose sake he created the universe and prepared for him eternal glories, to raise him to where God his Father is to live. Man is a partner in glory, enjoying superior fatherhood. It was said about one of them that when he was dying, he smiled with joy as he addressed God. "Did you create the world for me, or did I create it? Now I can say that you are able to satisfy me and take care of me." This is what Genesis aims to do. It introduces us to God, the creator of the material world and the founder of the spiritual world. In his compassionate fatherhood, he created the material heaven and earth for me, to take me to his final coming to enjoy the new heaven and the new earth on an eternal angelic level. Some see this book as the foundation for every declaration. It opens the door for us to understand sound theological concepts and teaches us about God, his relationship, his divine commandment, and its work in our lives. Tell us about the human family and the Lord, how he proceeded from creating man to forming a holy family, then a clan, and then a people for God. He revealed to us the concept of marriage and family life, and we also learned about our relationship with the body and irrational creation. He exposed the enemy of goodness and declared his destructive plans and lust for human destruction. Finally, the book lays the foundation for the history of salvation. What is the book of Genesis, and why did God create man? In Hebrew, it is called Bereshit, which is the first Hebrew word from the book itself, and means in the beginning. As for calling it Genesis, it is translated from the Septuagint, and means the origin or the beginning of things. It is believed that Moses the prophet wrote it in Midian while he was tending the sheep of his father-in-law Jethro. It is more likely that he wrote it after receiving the revelation of the law. He learned to write from the Egyptians, whose wisdom he learned. Even though the one who taught the disciples languages on the day of Pentecost was able to teach Moses how to write, the topic of creation